Thank you again. And, now let's begin with our question and answer section. We have the first caller from Tecnológico de Estudios Superiores de Cuautitlan in Izcalli, Mexico. The question is, which is better, a revolutionary innovation or an evolutionary innovation process?
Well, both are important, but you can't rely on always developing game changers or totally new products or services or processes. You can establish infrastructure for revolutionary changes, but by its nature, they're still only going to occur once in a while. On the other hand, you need to develop ways to continually improve with incremental changes in every area of your business. In either case, however, you need a culture within the organization that accepts change and knows how to implement it.
Great, thank you. We have a second caller from Universidad do Ricardo Palma in Lima, Peru. And the question is, you make a good point that new ideas are always very difficult to implement, and that organizations should try to hire more and more out-of-the-box people. This is most challenging in government agencies and companies that still operate with their traditional job descriptions and rigid rules that make it difficult to hire foreign talent and specialists in new generation disciplines such as global studies. Will this change in the future?
Well, I think it has to change. Otherwise, these organizations and maybe particularly public enterprises will become obsolete themselves, and their communities will demand change. The re-invention of governments and the traditional role of citizens will continue to be the most prevalent phenomenon of this new era of accelerated globalization that we live in.
All right, great. Thank you again. And we have another caller from the Tianjin Institute of Foreign Relations and Trade in Tianjin, China. The question is, from your perspective today, I conclude that leadership in the new economy is not a matter of charisma or specialized knowledge, but of having the competence to lead innovation and change. What do you think is the most important dimension of these competencies?
Well, I believe having the skill to convince others to do what is in the best interest of everyone in the organization, even if it involves something totally new, is one key element. Also, the ability to make the right decisions and to maintain a global perspective are essential here. By the way, these are the core skills of the global competence called IML, International Managerial Leadership, that was proposed a number of years ago by Dr. Miguel Cardenas, and which is certified by San Diego Global Knowledge University, which can be found at the website www.sdgku.com.
All right, very good. Thank you for your response again. We have now a caller from Manak Engineering Services in New Delhi, India. Welcome to our program. The question is, the concept of international and global human resources management sounds very esoteric for small and medium-sized organizations that do not have the capacity to hire personnel globally. What would you recommend for those kinds of organizations?
Well, managing human resources has to have an international and global vision if it is to be done competitively. You don't have to hire personnel in other countries, but you do need to create your international and global networks so that you can have access to the latest ideas and innovations in your industry and field of work. The global workforce is the new pool of talent that any effective human resources must draw from now. And leadership in the new economy depends on the effectiveness of this important organizational function.
Thanks again. Our next caller is from BF de Almeida and Associates in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. The question is, I like your three-step approach at implementing innovation and new ideas in real life. This involves teams and partnerships in an increasingly networked and global environment. These must integrate multicultural protocols and styles. Do you consider this reality a problem?
Well, I believe diversity is our strength, not our weakness. When there's common purpose and we all seek to be better and more productive for ourselves and for society all over the world, cultural differences should not be a barrier to team collaboration and partnerships in these global networks.
Very good. Our next caller is from Universidad Autónoma de Mexico, UNAM, in Cuautitlan, Mexico. The question is, do you believe learning more about the global system and its new dynamics, i.e. global knowledge, is an increasingly important resource and asset we must all try to develop to become better leaders in the new economy?
Sure, yes. In fact, this is the niche or specialty of ITC's academic and certification entity, San Diego Global Knowledge University. I invite you all to visit its website at www.sdgku.com and consider enrolling in one or more of its unique online programs.
Our next caller is from Instituto Tecnológico de Tlalnepantla, Itla, Estado de Mexico, in Mexico. The question is, what led you to write your well-known book, International Human Resources Management, and what are the 3 most important messages in your latest edition?
Now, when I first got interested, there was no book on this topic, and the first books that were written primarily covered the issue of managing expatriates. I wanted to write a book that covered the whole responsibility of human resource management for multinational companies and organizations. Regarding the 3 most important messages of my latest edition, 1, we wanted to reflect the increasing impact of globalization throughout the book, particularly the impact of emerging markets. Secondly, we cover for the first time the theme of comparison of human resource practices between countries and regions. And we greatly expanded the use of real examples for teaching and discussion.
Thank you again. And one other question that comes to mind is whether creativity that we talked about earlier, is it possible to develop that? Is it possible to teach that? Or is it something that you come with it to the organization?
You know, I often get asked that question because I think some people want to believe that only those who are creative can help innovation in a company. And the reality is you can teach innovation and creativity. There are exercises that have been developed. There are things you can do in both a classroom setting and just an organizational setting. And you want everybody contributing, finding and identifying opportunities for innovation and creativity.
Right. So another final question. What advice can you give to global leaders to be effective in today's complex environment that we talked about earlier?
Well, without repeating everything that we've just gone over, I think CEOs or the top team of executives have got to monitor their environment very carefully or very completely so that they really get a sense of both the nature of the complexity they're facing and where it's coming from, or at least having antenna out to sense when the pressure is there. I think they ought to begin a conversation themselves with their top people about their own organizational innovation and creativity and the barriers that exist within their organizations. Ultimately, they've got to develop strategies based on the knowledge that they create to improve their flexibility, adaptability, resilience, and recoverability, those phrases that I used early in the presentation.